On this episode of Industrial Talk, we are broadcasting live from the 29th Annual SMRP Conference in St. Louis. Fantastic venue, fantastic event, and we are brought to you by Accruent and Fluke Reliability. Let's get cracking with the interview.
Welcome to the Industrial Talk Podcast with Scott McKenzie. Scott is a passionate industry professional dedicated to transferring cutting-edge, industry-focused innovations and trends while highlighting the men and women who keep the world moving. So put on your hard hat, grab your work boots, and let's go.
All right, you welcome to Industrial Talk. We are broadcasting live from the 29th Annual SMRP Conference here in St. Louis, Missouri. Absolutely incredible venue with wonderful people. And I mean, when you start talking about the leaders in reliability and asset management and in maintenance, they are here from all around the world. It is a wonderful event. I also want to say thank you to Accurate and Fluke Reliability for sponsoring Industrial Talk. So I zip out here and I've got the website, and this is a statement that I just love with Fluke Reliability. Provide maintenance and reliability professionals the data to do the job, asset by asset, wherever they are. Yes, yes, and yes. And then, of course, with Accurate, we're talking about gain the insights to transform how your organization manages its physical resources. That is what today's game is all about. That is what we do here. And that's what SMRP and that's what Fluke and Accurate is all Accurate. Accruent. See, thank you. There's another one right there. That's Accruent. And because he's with Fortive, he knows how to sound.
I should.
Yeah, you better. Not me. You know, Accruent. Anyway, hey, thank you for joining.
Yeah, no problem.
It's good. It's good to have a conversation with somebody from Fortive, which is the parent company, which is the mothership of both Accruent. Fluke Reliability too as well.
There you go.
Hey, we're going to be talking AI here, digital transformation, but before we get into that conversation, because that's an important conversation, let's talk a little bit about who you are, a little background. Give us a little 411 on who you are.
Sure. So I'm originally from Canada. I grew up in Toronto.
She just dropped that. All my parents grew up in Hamilton and Dundas, and all my family lives in Burlington, all in that area.
Wow. There we go. That's amazing. I don't need to say any more.
No. Did you go to Sudbury?
No. I know of it, but
see the big nickel.
Peterborough is probably the furthest.
Yeah, you got to see the big nickel.
Exactly. But yeah, I got into mechanical engineering as an undergrad major.
Where'd you go to school?
University of Toronto.
Okay.
And
not McMaster?
Not McMaster, not anywhere else. And it was just because their internship program was 1 year of continuous interning in one company, which was exciting, rather than doing 4-month co-ops.
That's pretty good, yeah.
But I got into engineering actually because I wanted to design roller coasters. That's my passion as a childhood.
Get out of here.
Used to build huge automated roller coasters in my basement. Still go to parks all over the country.
That's cool.
That was the plan. And things kind of changed a little bit after I got into university, and I really got excited about industrial operations, just really designing big, complicated systems, which roller coasters are, that are interdisciplinary, require electrical, mechanical, engineering, etc. And I first had an interview with a oil and gas company after I graduated, which is called Suncor Energy, biggest one in Canada.
Yes, I'm familiar with it.
And went to go work in maintenance planning and scheduling out in Fort McMurray for the huge Cat 797 and Komatsu 930E trucks. So perfect example of very large,
huge
machines. And
that was that oil sands?
That was the oil sands, yeah. So we were, that all supports the surface mining operation. And I did that for about a year and a half. And at that time, I was really excited to, at this point, go back to GE, where I had done that 1-year internship at U of T. And I only wanted to do this rotational leadership program, which is called OMLP, for operations management. And that was the first time in 2014 they brought it to Canada from the US. And I was part of the initial group with some friends of mine that were also interns. And so I left and joined that program, and that was a whirlwind of 6-month rotations in the oil and gas business of GE, in the transportation business, and that was doing everything from lean manufacturing, supply chain sourcing, shop operations supervision, and all that. And then I finished and stayed with GE Transportation, and that's kind of where I started moving into the analytics side, because they have a very big program around analytics coming from fleets of locomotives, and they sell that as a service.
By the way, if you ever put this on your bucket list, just look at a locomotive. I mean, there's some serious stuff. There's some various serious tech.
100%. A lot of it's pretty old, but it's really exciting.
It's still exciting stuff. And I remember I was able to get a tour of an engine, and I was like, are you kidding me?
Oh, yeah.
No, it's
yeah,
awesome.
Try standing next to one when it's running. It's just like it's really...
It's powerful. It's powerful. I'm sorry, I digress.
But yeah, so I was working actually out of our major customer CP Rail's office. I was the only GE person in their office managing that diagnostic program for their fleet of 600 plus locomotives. So we're really trying to crunch all that data and figure out what programs could we run for them to improve reliability of the fleet, and solve systemic issues, as well as identify them before some catastrophic issue affecting the fleet.
Right.
And so I was there for about 9 months, and I kind of felt a little bit on an island, being just kind of myself at GE and the customer. I was like, where do we go from here?
Right.
And I started looking for grad school programs, and came across one at MIT which was called Leaders for Global Operations. And that basically fused 2 degrees which is an MBA and Master's in Engineering, and obviously you pick your discipline. And that was right away, I was like, that's the place I gotta go. This is exactly me. I love operations. I don't want to leave that, but I want to take it to the next level and explore emerging technologies in the field, and just be around like-minded folks like myself.
Yeah, I think that whole conversation about emerging technologies, that digital transformation journey, whatever that looks like, that Industry 4.0, it's just ripe with interesting solutions and conversations. Now, I was still in your resume of who you are, the fact that we're going to talk about AI. Where did you get that data analytics, that AI skill set?
Yeah, that actually started in grad school when I got to MIT. I had no AI background before. I mean, strong in data analysis, but the field really was emerging at that time and becoming popularized. And by the time I got to grad school, it was full-blown, there's the leading edge of research happening there, so you can get exposure, to the fundamentals, the math behind it, all the way up to applications, to all the startups that are leveraging AI in different ways. And it was just, from nothing to complete immersion over that 2-year period.
Is AI, the way I look at it today, versus the way it appears to be going or headed, or the thought leaders are taking it, isn't AI sort of this data analytic machine that creates parameters today, where if it's outside here, these are good parameters, anything outside those parameters, bad, got to do something. Mm-hmm. There will be a point where there is this sort of level of machine learning, but is AI sort of at that level right now, or where are we at?
Yeah, I mean, that's what you described is pretty much how AI is applied in most situations, where you need to learn a set of parameters that ultimately characterize the problem that you're trying to solve. Those parameters may not make intuitive sense, and that's part of the explainability challenge, but ultimately they can be used to generalize a problem, and then they can make predictions based on the data that you've been presenting. So ultimately it's really just a much more complex optimization problem. I always like to explain it as you have kind of a linear regression as the simplest kind of optimization problem that most people know, fitting a line to a bunch of points and then making a prediction. And AI really does that in a non-linear space that's very hard to visualize.
Is that the headwind? Because when we start talking about AI, there's a number of questions that come up. One, it's going to take my job. I don't think that. I think it's going to make your job better. I think it's going to address maybe some more mundane type of tasks that are currently being done. I think it's a positive. Mm-hmm. But there still is headwind of organizations and companies listening to and for lack of a better term, hype, mm-hmm. like it's going to solve problems, it's going to do everything, it's going to be everything, versus what it can do, what is meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see it? What's the main headwind?
Well, I think that, like many kind of big technological changes in history, it's, that hasn't kind of materialized, right? When you think about the interstate highways being built in the U.S., a lot of people who are, driving carriages or cars for other people and made a living off of that on doing short distances thought they were all out of a job. And after the highways were built, all these other businesses started springing up in places that you couldn't access before, and that stimulated a new wave of growth. Granted, some pain in between, and the same thing will happen with AI, but it most certainly won't replace people. They have to be augmented by people who can do higher level cognitive tasks that AI today is just not built to solve. AI is very good at solving prescriptive, well-defined tasks, but ultimately there's still a level of interpretation and other processes around that where the AI is used and deployed that have to be coordinated and worked on by humans.
The AI in general is already in commercial use in whatever capacity, and what comes to mind is how I'll say it. Facebook knows that I like watches or whatever it might be, and then all of a sudden, lo and behold, I get watches on my stream, whatever it is. That is, from my perspective, a function of AI saying, "Oh, I see that guy's interest, and I'm going to give more, and make it easier for me to see it."
Yeah.
In the industrial space, do you find where do we in this continuum? Where do we stand from an industrial perspective?
Well, I think with the industrial space, you're looking at different class of AI problems, right? And a lot of what you're describing, it's recommendation problems, and that's very well suited to e-commerce when you're trying to buy things. In the industrial space, it's a lot of time series data that you're dealing with, and so rather than make recommendations about what to purchase or what to do, you're trying to diagnose or detect that something has occurred or is about to occur, and it's a lot more, I would say, of technically challenging problem, especially when you're dealing with the kinds of signals that you're going to get in an industrial context. Much more complex than, say, an e-commerce site.
See, and it is that complexity that always sort of overwhelms me, because you're absolutely right. If I have an asset that's out in the field, I have a device on that asset, an IoT, whatever the device is. It's collecting data. It's sending it to some sort of edge solution into the cloud, and that's where we're and hopefully be able to maybe have some sort of computing capability at the edge to say, that's dummy data, or whatever, that data we don't care about, that data we don't care about. We want to let this data go through. And it's an interesting, and it's just for that pump. There's another pump. There's another motor. And each one has specific data that is meaningful for it. And it even gets down to probably I have a pump A is the same as pump B, but the performance is just different.
Exactly.
And you're going to have to constantly manage that to come up with meaningful and tactical information.
And you have decisions to make, right? When it comes down to doing the number crunching and analysis, some techniques try to generalize over similar machines, but operating in different environments and figuring out how to provide accurate diagnoses irrespective of the environment they operate in, which is very challenging, but very useful if you can do that. And then others treat, as you said, the machine as all unique, which they are. They have their own data streams, even if they're identical machines, and they build systems around each machine. But now you have to be able to do something that scales very quickly across a number of machines, because you don't have the time and resources to have a complex conditioning and training process for every single machine.
But it has benefits, right? Can you explain a little bit about the benefits of where you're going with AI and that sort of digital transformation journey? Why is this so important?
I think broadly speaking, what you're seeing in the marketplace is a lot of concentration of companies, right? A lot of the big tech giants are the first ones that come to mind. And simply, the way that that's been enabled is through digital business models. Digital business models have effectively reduced the incremental cost of delivering value to a customer to zero. So if you're Amazon, what's the cost of serving a new customer? zero. I don't have to build any product. I don't have to ship anything. Nothing. They just provide some additional data flow back to and from my site, and that's about it. And so that lack of any cost, but also the scalability that digital networks offer, is amazing, and it's what's allowed this concentration to happen. And so, when you're saying why is digital transformation so important, what you're trying to do is unlock that scalability that is very, very hard to achieve if you're a traditional industrial business. If you're a traditional industrial business, the organization starts to get very complex as you grow, right? Imagine GE at its prime had hundreds of thousands of employees trying to coordinate all these businesses. I mean, Amazon has maybe less than 100,000 full-time staffers, and I mean, the scale and footprint of Amazon is far bigger than GE ever was.
So that is an absolutely rock solid analogy. I had a conversation at Amazon, their plan, and I spoke to the Amazon, 4,000 delivery sites, whatever it is, next year. Building them.
Yep. Exactly.
Come on.
I know.
Is that it's just a heck
in a
of a
previous, in a previous system of managing your business without being able to leverage data assets, that would be extremely complex.
I wouldn't even know what you couldn't.
Right.
But now they do.
Sure.
That's a great example. Absolutely a great example. So I like that. And what's the pushback? I see that if you're not in the game, if you're not actively in the game, if you're not feeling uncomfortable, whatever it is, and if you think it's a waste of your time, you don't have the right mindset, because it isn't a waste of time. But you have to be in the game. And if you're not in the game, your competition will be in the game, and they will blow your doors off. Do you agree with that?
I definitely agree with that. I agree with that. It's the challenge is what you see so clearly, not everybody sees so clearly. Or they do, but change is very difficult, very difficult. I mean, a transformation is a typically multi-year process with no clear guidebook and no clear step-by-step process. And so it's scary, for a lot of people to take that dive.
You must. Whether you like it or not, you must. And I think people get distracted by the day-to-day tactical work that they get and the little firefights that they have to go through. How do people get a hold of you? Because that's pretty cool stuff.
LinkedIn, Ephraim Machtinger on LinkedIn.
I will have all that contact information out on LinkedIn, so don't worry about it if you're saying, hey, I'm having a hard time spelling his last name. Fear not, it will be out there. So now there's no excuse for not contacting him. And I got to reach out to you. Did I reach out to you?
You did.
I did.
I actually sent you a message.
Did you?
Because Kevin said, hey, 11:30, and I said, hey, I'll be there at 11:30, so...
Sometimes it's overwhelming. I don't have an AI platform to tell me, hey, this guy's important.
I'll pay for it if somebody could develop that as well, because LinkedIn is tough to manage.
Big time. But I'm not saying that. I like LinkedIn. Don't cut me off. All right. Thank you very much for being on Industrial Talk.
Thank you, Scott.
All right. We would like to also once again thank Accruent. Did I get it right that time?
Perfect.
Accruent and Fluke Reliability. Go out to Accruent as well as Fluke Reliability. See what they have out on the World Wide Web. You will not be disappointed. Great company, great people, incredible solutions. Excellent stuff. And thank you very much for SMRP, the 29th anniversary of this wonderful conference. St. Louis, Missouri is the place. Put this on your bucket list, because this is if you're into, you could be in AI, man. This is the place to be. If you get to be in maintenance and reliability, boom, make it happen, Captain. This is the event for you. So, all right, we're going to wrap it up on the other side. Do not fear. We will be right back.
You're listening to the Industrial Talk Podcast Network.
All right, his name was Ephraim. He was talking AI. He is with a company called Fortive. And I'm telling you right now, right this very moment, you're going to have to find trusted people to have that conversation, that digital transformation conversation. And I'm telling you right now, you will not be disappointed with Ephraim. Also, I want to say thank you once again to Accruent as well as Fluke Reliability for sponsoring Industrial Talk at the 29th annual SMRP conference. Put that on your bucket list. You will not. Again, fantastic venue, wonderful people, passionate about delivering reliability, asset management, and maintenance solutions. All right. You need to educate, you need to innovate, you need to collaborate, without a doubt, especially now. Connect with people like Ephraim and others, and you will change the world. It's happening now. Get going. Do not hesitate. All right, we're going to have another great interview right around the corner. So, stay tuned. We will be right back.